I'm gonna unmic,
Okay.
so there was a little. I'm unmiking that, so now they're not muted. Sometimes I get this and sometimes, all right, there goes.
Okay, everyone, I'm told that we are now out on YouTube, so let's go ahead and get started. Don't forget to turn off your phones. A little easier for Mamie. Now we've got a call. Just like at home, nobody listens. Yeah. Hi there, how are you? You look very nice, as always.
Thank you so much. These fans came from Greece.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's cool. Boom pop.
I had never.
Where'd you go?
He's trying to let the board control while he's assessing himself.
Oh, okay.
There's a meeting.
Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead. Madam Clerk, we're gonna shortly be doing a roll call if everybody's ready. If you haven't already, turn off your phones and we'll begin at the beginning when you're ready, Sharon.
Bell. Curran.
Here.
Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Ott.
Here.
Pittsburgh.
Here.
Ballraff.
Here.
Werpel. Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott.
Here,
Mr. Chair, you have 11 present, 1 absent.
thank you. We have minutes from a long time ago. 22nd of August. Anybody
Aye.
wanna
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from a long time ago.
move by Pittsburgh, is
Support
there
it.
support? Support by Freeling. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved, and I think we have requisitions.
Yep, does anybody have any questions about the requisition list? Thank you.
Thank you. The treasurer is first on the list and first in all of our hearts. So you want to get us started, Shannon?
All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so this morning I'm here to report on presenting the 2024 foreclosing governmental unit report on the 2022 property tax foreclosures. So this is required by statute that I present this report to you. And then I have to also submit it back to the state by September 30th, which it has already been submitted on August 23rd. So starting in block number 1. Originally, we started out in June of 2021 with 1,786 parcels subject to foreclosure. Of those, 116 parcels were ordered foreclosed. Those that didn't get foreclosed were either redeemed, entered into a payment arrangement, or withheld for other statutory reasons. The minimum bid for those 116 parcels was $241,757.24. Only the city of Benton Harbor exercised their first right of refusal by purchasing 31 parcels. The minimum bid on those 31 parcels was $56,743.34. They paid $57,061.40 for those parcels. I took to auction 85 parcels that were sold at our online auction only. Amount paid for those 85 was $676,500.90. The total amount of all taxes, penalties, interest, fees, and costs on those foreclosed properties was $241,757.24. The total amount paid for all properties, including those that went to sale and those that the city of Benton Harbor purchased, was $733,562.30. There was a total of $97,107.23 paid out to 5 claimants. Those were 5 property owners that filed excess proceeds claims. There's 8 claims that remain outstanding of $200,577.40. Those are due to pending lawsuits decisions that we're waiting on before we can pay those out. The net amount after subtracting out these proceeds from the difference in the amount paid for all the properties and the amount of all taxes, penalties, interest, and fees is $394,697.83. Now, this figure does not reflect the 8 outstanding claims that we haven't paid out yet. And that's the end of my report. Are there any questions regarding that tax foreclosure? Yes, Commissioner. Okay. Okay. Is there any questions relating to this report first, and then I'll jump into modern plastics?
The chair had to step out briefly, so if there's any questions or nameplates that need to speak up.
How did that go?
He knocked it down with his.
Must have been ghost or something in here.
Yes.
I have a question, but it's not specific to Shelley.
Use your mic.
Ask it of our administrator. Commissioner, can you hear your microphone?
So I have a question, I suppose directed to our administrator. As the governmental units, use their right of first refusal, is there any follow-up on actually what happens to that property down the road?
That's an excellent question. I will follow up in the form of a written response.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions before Shelley dives into, the treasurer dives into Commissioner Yarborough's question? There's one here from Commissioner.
Is it public knowledge who purchases those parcels? Like if a business is purchasing them as a group? Okay, is that like on the website or something?
No, you would have to contact my office.
Okay.
And we could provide that information to you.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
Okay, so we just held our tax auction on September 3rd. We had 119 parcels. We sold 93 of those, leaving me with 26 will go to the second auction for a minimum bid of $100 on each of those parcels. On those 119 parcels, we had 21 file claims on those. And right now that sits, according to what we sold, that amount totals $263,218.79. Total minimum bid on those parcels was $1,296,476.86. And we sold those 93 parcels for $2,435,335.18. Of that, the modern plastics parcel, we had 1 bidder. There's 7 parcels included with that. And the total amount paid was $752,468.92. Sure, $752,468.92. Right now, it's currently still sitting in the county treasurer's name until the deed is filed. So at this time, I'm not able to disclose until payment is actually in our hands and I have signed off on that deed to be recorded. Okay.
Thank you for that update as well. Commissioner Warfel, you have a
How
question?
much was owed on it? I don't remember the taxes due.
This was the amount, the minimum bid, the $752,000, that was included all the back taxes, fees, interest, everything that's accumulated over the years.
Is the demolition in that dollar amount, but, or you don't know what it would cost to
No,
demolish?
the demolition fee is not included in that dollar amount. It'll be up to the purchaser to work on getting funding to demolish the building and get it cleaned up, because there's environmental issues.
Yeah, I would think so. Gracious.
Commissioners, I know that there will be a high degree of interest in what's going to happen with Modern Plastics. As we have more information that we can share publicly, we will make sure that you have that information. At this time, it's just premature until the property sale is actually concluded and closed.
Okay,
But we will work to get you information on who bought it, what they're gonna do with it.
thank you. And I'm asking these questions for me. No one has said to me, did they sell it, da, 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 da. So,
We can at least say it's sold.
and I'll have them get in touch with
Yeah,
Treasury.
we should be receiving the funds and the deed shortly for me to sign off on, get it recorded, then it'll be public knowledge on, then we can disclose who has purchased the property.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Shelley before we move on to our next topic? All right, no more. Thank you again.
All right,
for
thank you.
coming in
Anyone
and
has further
updating us.
questions, feel free to contact me.
Will do. All right, so now we're moving on to an update on the project for 500 Circle Drive, and Captain Rocky Adams is here with us. So we'll
Morning,
turn it over
everybody.
to
Thank you for having me. It's good to see everybody. Brian had asked me to give a update on the Buchanan office building, on where we are with the request for qualifications process that that we have started. Oh, it's down. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I kind of caught up the timeline from the last presentation that we had given. The last presentation I had given into the board packet there, just for some notes in case you needed that recalled from the last time we were here in, I think March or May, somewhere in there. But we did put out a request for qualifications under the bid number that you see to the left in May. We did have a few pre-proposal site visits, 2 of them where we had contractors tour the building, just give them a general idea of the lay of the land and what they might be getting into if they were awarded the bid in June. And then the RFQ process closed toward the beginning of July, I think July 10. We had a committee that was appointed to meet. So we had several of the Board of Commissioners that were on that committee, as well as staff from the relevant departments, whether IT, 911, emergency management, sheriff's office, to be able to look at those proposals and start to score them. And we'll get into what that scoring process was in a moment. The committee met a few times to hash out those written proposals and then rank those in terms of ranking order, preference order based on qualifications. Then we took a few tours to sample some of the top scorers' work to see if it would be relevant for our situation. We asked them to find some buildings that were very similar to the work that we were looking at in Buchanan. So we took a few days to go and look at a few relevant projects for that. And then we did some reference checks, Zoom calls with some of the references that they provided in their projects. A few where they cited projects even, but didn't provide them as references. So we were looking for anybody that would have any feedback for us on their quality of work. And then we had a chance to be able to come back together as a committee to hash out any final comments to see if there was any movement of that objective scoring. And then here we are today to provide that recommendation. Just a side note on the grant, we did apply for the grant as well for a $3 million Emergency Operations Center Enhancement Grant. The anticipated award date for that was scheduled to be August 30. We have asked for status update, and they've just told us that they're delayed at this point, working through their federal budgets, and we should know soon. The proposals that we received are the four that are on the screen, for the four contractors or companies there that were then scored. So the committee came together and used this objective scoring process. It was a two-part process. First was to see if they were even, qualified or met the bid instructions that we had for them. One contractor did not meet the minimum qualifications that we had, did not answer the RFQ in the way that we had structured it. And so they were disqualified by the committee right off the first meeting. That left the other three that were scored through that competitive process. You can see kind of some weighting factors that really favored qualifications over some of the other administrative criteria that we had for them. And then you can see some of the reviewers' scores here, where one vendor really did pull ahead quite strongly. So we had one vendor, the other two that had remained were very, very close by like a tenth of a point in that scoring process. The site visits that are referred to, one of them was Lake County, Indiana. Very strikingly similar building, to be frank. I mean, it's a whole campus environment where they have, in totality, it's a huge building where several buildings have been connected together to make like a single campus style building. But the portion of it where their 911 center sits is strikingly similar to our project. That contractor did a great job, I think, of selecting one that met our constraints of, having a building that was about the same vintage and style of construction. Yes, sir. That was Wold's project. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the group went and toured that. Now, in their county, they've made a choice to separate the functions of their emergency operations center or their emergency management agency from their 911. Wold was not involved in that project, and so that wasn't part of the scope of our tour. We were looking for the qualifications of Wold specifically. So we saw, a really great 911 center that they had built. However, they did have a department operating center in there that they showed us kind of how the concept could play out at a bigger scale if they were selected. And then DLZ had put forward the GR Ford Airport Operations Center. And that was kind of the reverse, where they really had a built-out emergency operations center. However, the needs for communications at the airport for emergency communications is a little bit smaller. And so they had a smaller footprint for 911. These are both customer preferences that, the architectural engineering firm really have no control over. It's basically the owner, the customer saying, this is how I want you to build it. And so they were demonstrating, I think, their capabilities through what that end product was. So this was, again, a remodel, however, maybe a little bit newer and a little bit of a different budget that they had than what Lake County, Indiana had. But both gave us a really good sense for engineering qualifications.
Can we agree that this is a blank check budget?
It was substantial. Some of the major factors after we came back and reviewed the two contractors between Wold and DLZ heavily. The major factors, if I may speak on behalf of the entire committee, really was Wold's experience with 911, particularly among their team. The team that they put forward, I mean, you can see the list, and there's more lists that they have worked on particular 911 centers. So that is something that they called out very well as being part of their specialty. They definitely had a lot more examples where the specific team they were putting forward worked on projects together with 911. The other vendors were excellent firms. I mean, they're outstanding firms. However, when it came to very much the specific functions of 911 and EOC and kind of understanding and maybe living through their experience of mistakes and being able to correct those. They were providing subcontractors and other specialists that they have worked with on a limited basis in their projects. And so this was one of the major factors why I think Wold really pulled ahead of the other firms. They all were great firms, like I said. The second one was that they put forward and really emphasized the time that would be spent on investigative time and planning in the front end, doing risk assessments and being able to have conversations with us to say, you know, what is it that you guys are thinking? What is it that you're needing? And then based on our experience, we can tell you whether or not you're going to be maybe on a path for a lot of change orders, or maybe there are some areas in which you don't invest in as heavily to be able to reduce your risk in a different way. But then put that cost savings into an area where you may have high risk of failure in the project. And so those were a few of the major projects there. I do have to pause and apologize on behalf of Director Samsel from 911. She had a family illness today, couldn't make it. And I was going to take time now to really pause and see if she had any comments on that and kind of explain some of the intricacies of the IT and 911 environment to be able to, you know, bolster those points. But I don't know, Brian, do you have any words?
Yeah, what I would stress to you all is that we, as a committee, we placed a lot of value on making sure we're listening to feedback from each party, and that with this recommendation, I can assure you that from the 911 side, Wold was their clear recommendation. Between Galen and Jennifer, Wold was by far their preferred vendor, just based on the number of centers that they've built, and really based on the fact that Wold isn't going to be subbing out the 911 design portion of the project. So while Caitlin can't be here today, I can say to you all with 100% confidence, this is her recommendation. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you for that. So this, on to the recommendation, you stole the thunder on that last slide there. Thank you for that. Would be that the Board of Commissions take action to basically announce Wold as the selected contractor, and then give the administrator and corporate counsel the authority to negotiate an agreement, a professional services agreement with them, to be able to bring that back to the board for further consideration. The cost breakdown and the phasing, you can see the scope of work from the past meeting. Really, phase one is more investigation, trying to figure out what we want in a design, to be able to do cost analysis on that, estimations. Phase two is the actual design and schematics. And then phase three is getting into then construction administration and more of the construction phase portion of the QA QC process when it comes to the execution of construction. So that's the scope of work was broken down into those three phases. In between phase 2 and 3, there will be a separate bid process for those construction management, general contractor, and then subs under that. That would have to happen. So there's a specific bid process that would happen in between phase 2 and 3. And the contractor, as part of their scope of work, will produce that and work with us to bring that before the board. And then the last slide that I have is just their timeline that they estimated, to give you a sense for kind of where they are. There'll have to be an adjustment because now we're in September. They were assuming a start in August. So a couple of months, everything probably needs to be shifted over to the right a little bit. In terms of the grant deadlines and the use of that money and the performance period for that, it was June of 2027 was when the end date of that performance period would be. And that ends, and like I said, in your packet, then you get into the last update that we had given. I just gave that to you for convenience. Are there any questions or?
There was a big difference in the scoring by the individual members of the team. I'd be interested in what Jim and Terry, I think you guys were on it, right?
Yeah.
On this committee, would you guys,
Bob and Mamie were also involved.
would you guys address maybe some of the things that your feelings on the project?
Anybody want to go first?
Jim?
Well, as far as the scoring goes, not everybody got a chance to go to both site visits, so there might have been a little difference there. But I think overwhelmingly, everybody looked at the experience that Wold had. And obviously the highest numbers went to Wold. Really both those companies are excellent companies. I think either one would do a good job, but we lean towards Wold. Primarily because of their experience and they're in-house. They don't contract things out to other corporations. They do everything in-house and they really rose above everybody else.
Yeah, I think the visit to Lake County was particularly helpful because it's actually, I think, a 68, 69 construction. And so it's similar to Buchanan. And so that, I think, is where that kind of pushed me in their direction. But then as you sat and, both companies are very good. And I think we would get good work out of either one. But I just kind of lean towards Wold more.
Maybe did you have anything to add?
I think when we looked at them, just like you said, this building was built in 68 or 69. And then when we went to Grand Rapids, it was under construction or maybe recently released. So kind of looking at things that are older and newer made a difference in my score. But then we were assured they knew what Wold does because they did some work at the jail. They were familiar with the company. They knew what the other company was doing because they've done work with us. So I was satisfied with what the experts saw because I didn't know about, the workings necessarily. That's my.
Terry?
As it relates to these scores, we all individually scored them without giving feedback or input to one another. So I think that all independently, you can see what everybody kind of saw on their own. And then we vetted them and talked through them. We had a scoring rubric that was set up that gave us sort of benchmarks of what we were hoping to see in the process, and that ultimately is what rolled out here. And so for me, I was leaning very heavily just from my interpretation of the bid documents that we had in front of us. Wold came out ahead very high for me. The other two, not to discount those vendors in any way, shape, or form, because I think all three of them would have been capable. But as you can see, even independently, Wold was the clear winner. And then when we took the tour and I went to both facilities, both were fantastic, but I could definitely see how Wold would be able to help fit the space that we had at 500 Circle to make it be what we are envisioning it to be, and hearing the feedback from staff of what they needed as well played a part in my decision.
Anything else? Julie, did you have?
No, I was just curious as what you guys felt as far as those differences between the two companies, not necessarily the score itself, but appreciate that info.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, just a couple of comments, if it's appropriate. So number one is a statement of thanks to the committee members that were able to come in and help with the scoring, to take the time to go to Lake County, up to Kent County. It's very much appreciated, the time that was invested in this process. And then just a quick statement of thanks between Caitlin and her team. They've been very helpful in this. Captain Adams is here. He's done a really excellent job of helping us with the RFQ, with the management of the process and then the presentation today. Really, really good work coming out of his office. So the plan for next steps is work with the admin committee on an authorizing resolution to formalize the recommendation and bring that forward. And then just one last statement. We interviewed 3 companies in this room. So we have Whiteman, DLZ, and then ultimately Wold. Wold is the recommendation. They're essentially the recommended winner. But I think from the committee and personally, I felt like all 3 could have done the work and done it well. We do a ton of work with Whiteman. We know those folks well. DLZ is currently finishing up the Silver Beach project. And for me, it was reassuring to see that we've got some really good local talent for future projects. I have no further comments, sir.
I did deal with Wold a couple months ago. I talked with Rocky, and it's a project up in Lake County, Illinois, where they already have a presence in terms of the 911 and emergency ops. And was very impressed talking with them and ultimately engaging them on another municipal project up there for clients. So I think we're going to be in good hands. I really do. Does anyone else have anything? Yes, sir.
So I just want to say thank you to Rocky and his staff. Rocky coordinated a lot of the efforts. I did participate in the scoring. I was able to go to Lake County, but was not able to go to the airport. But I would echo everything that was said here, but just to thank you to Rocky and his staff, that were very involved in coordinating and, went to see those. The other thing I would say too is with Wold, as I report to admin today, just a reminder, we have that grant that was approved for the $200,000 to the jail study. Wold did that jail study the first time. So I'll be talking to the admin committee today about looking how we're going to move forward. We've got some timeframes and possibly looking at, whether we continue with Wold since we're already, looking at possibly if this gets approved. They did the jail study before. So I just want to thank Rocky and his staff and Brian and everybody that participated.
And they're involved.
Yes, and no.
Will Wold give us a discount if we have them update the jail study?
Sure, we'll check Superbook to see if we can find it.
Yeah.
To the commissioners, we did enjoy a high quality bus ride to Indiana. I think that some of the commissioners still have fillings falling out of their mouths.
Similar to our South County tour of that trail ride.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. I sat by the door that.
That was awful.
Yeah. I sat by the door that I was convinced that opens. Mr. Chair, I think that's it.
Okay. Anyone have anything else before we go to public comments? Then let's go to public comments. Given the length of the line, I would say there are no public comments.